What's going on, my PT peeps, my Walking Dead family, my fighters? I'm One Eye Bry, also known as PT. Don't know if I'm winking or blinking, but I'm definitely thinking about the Walking Dead Dead City. Spoiler warning for all things Walking Dead, especially Season 1, Episode 1 of Dead City. Going to give you my review, recap, breakdown, things I liked, things I didn't, everything else in between. Let me know your thoughts, post your comments below, but if you haven't seen the episode yet and you don't want to know this information, stop watching now. So, the episode starts with Maggie looking at, I don't know, is that a monocle? A monocular? I mean, I don't know what it is. It's not a binocular. It's one thing. It looks like a horn. But you see the decaying, falling apart, broken down New York City, Manhattan. And it's cool. The CGI looks great. Maggie's by herself. We see, what Manhattan looks like. First time we really get to see a major city in the Walking Dead universe, especially so many years after the zombie apocalypse. The CGI looks great, and if they spent $72 million on 6 episodes, it better look great, right? And New York does not look like that currently, but Maggie is looking in the distance, and we're not sure why. And it's kind of explained, like the episode is kind of explained so many times. And there are so many walkers right here, CGI walkers, and all over Manhattan and all over this episode. I still wonder how there are so many walkers so many years into the zombie apocalypse. And people love to say, well, new people die all the time. There's not millions and millions and millions of people still alive in the zombie apocalypse. But either way, Maggie hides because she hears some walkers, and she hides underneath a bridge or something there. And as she's hiding, for some reason, a walker sneaks up behind her. And this is the biggest trope in the Walking Dead universe. Zombies, walkers are not stealth. They're not going to be able to sneak up on you. And they do it at least 2 times in the episode. Maggie fights for her life. She doesn't really have a knife. She doesn't really have any weapons. But she knocks the walker to the ground and beats the face and head and skull out of the walker with the monocular, whatever this thing is. The thing she was looking through before. She smacks it and smacks it and smacks it and smacks it and smacks 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 and screams. And she's frustrated. She's having a bad time in the zombie apocalypse. She goes to a bar and she's got a cool boot. I'd say knife. So she has a boot where she hits her heel or hits something and a knife comes out, stabs one of the people at the bar. The lady's going to cut Maggie. Her knife goes through her hand, and it's the same bar that I guess Negan is at. So Negan is connected with this motel, this small little dive place, but he's clearly there, and Maggie knows where to find him, evidently. But it's not explained very well, in my opinion. As she runs towards the door, she's tripped by Ginny, I believe her name is. They were calling her Jenny on some of the closed captioning, but I think it's Ginny. She has no lines, so I don't know what her voice sounds like. Maggie tracks down Negan and Ginny as they're running away from the bar motel area. It's probably across the street, but it's the next sequence. And Negan and Ginny fall down, and then we see the fight that we saw in the teaser trailer many months ago. Maggie takes out a knife, puts it at Negan's neck. Negan tries to smack her with a crowbar, and it's a little fight sequence that's kind of cheesy, and it comes down to the fact that Maggie and Negan need each other. Because Maggie needs to get her son back that was kidnapped by the Croat. Terrible name, by the way. Croat. And Negan is evading the law from the Marshals. And Maggie has a little one-liner I thought you were better on your feet. And Negan's like, it's nice to see you, Maggie, or something. Some stupid little cheesy line. And neither of them hurt each other. And it kind of fades to black. And then the next sequence starts. But the Marshal is Pearly Armstrong is his name. Terrible name, Pearly. But Armstrong is the marshal that is going after Negan for what he did. They talk about Negan bashing in a man's skull, maybe talking about Glenn. But we see a wanted poster, and it says about notify any officer of the New Babylon Marshals. Do not approach unless armed. New Babylon Federation. Which there's a lot of groups now. You got the Commonwealth, New Babylon Federation, the Civic Republic, and the military, the CRM of that too. Maggie asks Negan point blank, where's Annie, your kid? Where are they at? She asks him. The closed captioning is terrible. But he doesn't answer. He just shrugged it off, and he's like, Ginny talks about this girl who doesn't talk. Negan was somewhere at a farm working there. Ginny was there, went to go find her dad, and she found out that her dad was killed. So Maggie asks point blank about Annie and the kid, and we don't get an answer. Very frustrating. Maybe we'll see her this season, maybe we won't, but Ginny has no lines, so we don't know what's up about this girl. So Maggie is attacked by the Croat, and she links the Croat because he whistled. Great. And she talks about how it's burned into her brain and she'll never forget it, which I'm sure, but that's the only link there is a whistle? Negan's like, I don't ever heard of him. I don't know what you're talking about. Maggie says BS, and then we find out that the Croat used to work with Negan and how he's terrible, and if he took Herschel, then Herschel's probably, don't say it, no. I guess he's hinting and implying that Herschel should be dead because the Croat's a terrible person, and we find out later on that Herschel's very much alive because that would be a terrible show if Herschel was dead. But Ginny and Negan and Maggie go on a little adventure. They drive around a little bit. As Maggie is sleeping in the truck, she has a flashback or dream sequence of Glenn being killed by Negan. And they show it again. So I don't know how that's going to go over very well for a lot of Walking Dead fans, because it's not going to be very well for Maggie fans and Glenn fans to see that. But it is what it is, and that's how it goes. But as Maggie is driving, she comes across this. 2 walkers, because people have died now. They are hangers, I guess, right? Not walkers, they're hangers. So we see the 2 hangers, and they were put there most likely by the Marshals, because there's a sign here that says New Babylon. Welcome to New Babylon, capital city of the New Babylon Federation. So they were put there to set an example to all people that break the law. The Marshals are running things, and do not break the law, because this will happen to you. So Marshall also kills a person in the bar where Maggie and Negan was, and he lets a walker bite a person that was aiding and abetting Negan, so he don't mess around, and he clearly shows that. Maggie shoots a flare in the air, and I have to say that Gimple, whoever's doing the writing here, loves flares. It's all over Fear the Walking Dead, like all over season 8, the first 6 episodes. Maggie shoots a flare up to get the people from Hilltop to come and get Ginny, because Negan wants Ginny, the little girl, or the young girl, to go there with Maggie to put her up and make sure she's safe. And it's kind of like part of the deal, so we'll see how that goes. Now they go to Manhattan. They get on a boat and they sail across the water, and as they do, before that, Maggie sneaks up behind one of these like new trainees that's a marshal, and brings him with them. But you get to see, Manhattan, and it's pretty awesome. It's a big, sequence because they're in the city now, and it's a big thing because the city's part of the story, and we're finally in the city and not rural, country area like in Virginia or Georgia where they filmed, even though they filmed this in New Jersey. So this guy right here is a new trainee marshal kind of guy. He ends up getting shot in the episode. We don't know if he dies, but I think he gets shot by Pearlie Armstrong, the other marshal, and he probably dies. But we see the Brooklyn Bridge was destroyed to try and prevent the outbreak from spreading. Too bad everyone's affected. But as they're walking around the city, walkers are being dropped out of buildings, and we think it's a group that's doing it, or the walkers are just falling out of buildings. Pretty cool. Buses are stacked on each other. They can't get by. There's also this weird sequence here where this thing's making noise, so all these walkers start coming down the street. Don't know where this thing came out of nowhere. Again, that's what happens a lot in this series so far. Like, stuff just happening out of nowhere. The stealth angle here. You can't really see it very well, but CGI cockroaches are all over these people. There's kind of one on the leg there if you look on Negan, and you see there's a bunch of cockroaches, and it's a gross sequence, and it's in the city, and New York's probably full of them. But ultimately, we see the walker or something here. There's a bunch of cockroaches. It's a pretty gross sequence. But again, there's a thing here. You can't really see this picture. I'm sorry it's so dark. It's part of the episode too. Is it's very dark at night in the city, so it makes sense, but it's just a little too dark. Sometimes it's hard to see. But you see a person here on the bottom left that's on top of a building. They kind of like are watching Negan and Maggie, and I think they're part of a group that's going against the Croat. But the guy falls like a couple times, and he's like clumsy, and Negan's like, get your stuff together, and it's pretty funny. Negan being Negan. Negan's probably the best part of the series so far. A walker inside a laundromat has like a bag on their head. Reminds me of Lucille, the way she died in the Here's Negan episode. We see this walker come out of nowhere, and again, it sneaks up behind Negan and this, trainee Marshal. So this is another gross sequence here, where inside the laundromat you see a mouse or rat. Well, it's probably a rat inside the walker's mouth. Don't know how it would be in there, and it's probably CGI, but it's just like, it's tough to see. You see the tail, that's for sure, but it's in there, and it like comes out as the walker's like trying to bite this guy. The rat, I keep saying mouse. The rat comes out, and it's like, whoa, like it's like screaming at the guy, and it's pretty gross, and the guy's fighting off the walker, and you can't really see it very well. Again, it's CGI, but the rat comes out of the walker's mouth, and we've never seen that before. We've seen spiders, and we've seen a bunch of stuff with different walkers and everything, but this has never been done. So 2 gross out moments with the rat and the cockroaches, and then Negan comes by and kills the walker, so this guy is safe. But Armstrong gets a shot at Negan, but it actually hits the trainee Marshal guy, so Negan is safe. Maggie and the Marshal fight, but Maggie knocks the guy out, and then the Marshal guy gets away. Negan and Maggie run into like a back room. Negan lights matches, and as he's walking by this part, this crazy, I guess, woman, looks like Mel Brooks kind of a thing, right? Blows out the match. And then the next scene is Herschel and the Croat. So Herschel is captured by the Croat, and Croat talks about Negan, and he's the one that killed your dad. And we see the Croat has a bad ear, kind of like Dwight's side of his face. So I'm guessing Negan did that to him. And then we see this guy. So we thought this was a walker or a runner doing parkour, but it's just a person that was being captured and tortured by the Croat. So it's just a person. And he decides to try to escape on a zip line, putting a little workout exercise bar thing on a zip line. And he decides to zip line away. And the Croat is unaffected by this. He actually thinks it's funny, because as this guy zip lines away, it's kind of funny like how you just look at it here. His eyes like, wee, like it just looks like, what are you doing, bro? But he has nowhere to go, so he tries to zip line away to freedom. And again, it just looks funny, wee. So the Croat gets a pair of cutters, like I guess bolt cutters or something, from one of his people. And he just cuts the wire as the guy is ziplining away, and he goes, snip, and cuts the wire, and the wire breaks, and the guy's like, ah, and he dies. And that's the end of the episode. The Croat's like, new record, 20 stories. Yeah. And that's it. That's how the episode ends. So overall, it's a decent start. Still don't know some answers to some questions. I would love for Dwight to show up in New York after you know what happened with Fear in the mid-season finale. I don't want to give it away. But it's supposed to be 2 years after The Walking Dead. So Negan has been up to different things, and so has Maggie. And I guess some of the things that he's done over those 2 years is why Armstrong wants to go after Negan. But also Armstrong talks about Negan and a lineup and the baseball bat and everything there. But it already doesn't make sense to me why they don't talk about people from Maggie's group, especially Elijah, not coming to help Maggie. Maggie was on her own, by herself. That doesn't make sense to me. And they're forcing Negan and Maggie to work together. So it is what it is. So we got to get over it, or I got to get over it. And a clue to Annie? Not sure, because they talk about it, but then Negan doesn't answer it. Because Maggie asks him the question, what happened to Annie and your child, your kid, right? Because Negan went away and Maggie didn't keep in touch with him. But somehow Maggie knew how to find him and what was going on. And then the Croat surrounded where, the hilltop, I guess. Again, it's explained, but it's not explained. You have to infer a lot of things. And that's annoying to a lot of people, including myself. That's like, But overall, it's a decent start. Hope it gets better and better and better. 6 episodes is all we get for season 1. But I know Lauren Cohan wants more and more seasons. Does Jeffrey D. Morgan? I don't know, but I would assume so, because they're executive producers, so they're probably going to make some good money doing this series. But let me know your thoughts. Post your comments below. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Either way, guys, stay safe. And as always, tell them Daryl.
Yo, we love